Hey yo, how's it going guys? SixftHax here, half for y'all today. My round 2 match of Brawl for all the elimination portion of it. So if you guys may have missed any of my previous battles for Brawl for all, I am going to try and make a playlist that will hopefully be in the description by the time this goes up. But I am a giant procrastinator sometimes, so if it's not there, comment down below and let me know and I'll make sure to add it ASAP if you guys want to see my pool battles and my round 1 match. So if you do enjoy this, hit that thumbs up button down below, and of course there's a time skip thingy on your screen so you guys can go ahead right into the battle. Now, as I mentioned before, I was able to make it out of pools, which in the end that was my goal. Like, as long as I made it out of pools, I didn't really care how far I went into the actual elimination portion of it, but we were able to win round 1 and make it into round 2. So if we can win round 2, we'll make it to round 3, and that would be absolutely amazing. We are facing Mayo. I feel like I've heard of Mayo before, and I feel like I've heard very good things about him, but I've never played him, so I'm really excited going into this battle here. His team is very, very scary. Unfortunately, my matchup is a little bit rough. Latios, Mega Deoncy, and Tornadus are very annoying offensively wise. SixftHax is definitely coming to this game because it's actually a giant nuisance to deal with and to potentially break through. Piloswine makes a lot of sense just because we do have Mega Manetric, and then Metagross I fully expect, although at the same time he could try to bring one of his 2 ghost types. I kind of just a little bit expect Spiritomb, just a little bit, because it helps with Reuniclus and it helps with Decidueye, so maybe he'll bring Spiritomb over Metagross, but Metagross just still seems very good in this game regardless though. So his Zmons are Latios and Spiritomb, I think. Latios or Rotom, one of those two. But regardless, his team is very, very scary to deal with, especially because my speed tiers are absolutely horrendous. Like, I knew when I was planning this team out that my speed tiers were going to be horrible, so a lot of his mons can run extra bulk, which is a little bit scary, so I have to be very careful with that. But as you can see on your screen, of course, we have just good old defensive Fat Celesteela. Like, I've brought this so many times, and it's gotten to the point, like, I was very close to making this either Groundium Z or Steelium Z, but I feared that, well, if this is going to be switching into Toxapex and I get burned, then there's not really much use to me having a Z move, right? But so that way I decided to go with leftovers. At the same time though, I guess Lumberry might have been a little bit justifiable. I don't think this is the correct EV spread. Unfortunately, my spreads did not save, and I want to say that this was actually more specially defensive than physically defensive, because if you look at his team, I need to take special hits from Tornadus and Latios. I can already eat Diamond Storms. I'm not worried about Metagross, honestly, so that's not a problem. And also maybe taking hits from Rotom. So I want to say that this was more specially defensive actually, but I guess it doesn't really matter in the end. So yeah, just defensive Fat Celesteela to kind of chip things down and wear down his squad. Next off, we have very bulky Mega Manetric here. I don't quite, again, remember the EV spread for this, but I think I just had enough speed for Latios because there's really no reason for Tornadus to run more speed than my Hydreigon, but if anything, I'd rather be safe to outspeed the Mega Deoncy and the Latios. So yeah, we have Thunderbolt, Volt Switch, Overheat, and Signal Beam. I'm pretty sure that these are the 4 moves that I brought here because this hits everything on his squad relatively hard. Like, I don't really need Hidden Power. Like, Hidden Power Steel, yeah, would be nice for Deoncy, but Thunderbolt I think already does over like 50%. So I figured, hey, that's probably more than enough damage, and I can still use this to kind of pivot into things like the what's it called, Tornadus, and potentially even Toxapex, even Metagross, honestly. So yeah, that would be pretty cool. And Spiritomb as well if it's physical. And I did have Static just in case I switched this in on Tornadus and he went for like a knockoff or a U-turn. I could get the Static, and that would be very, very nice as well. Or if I switched into this expecting a Meteor Mash from Metagross, then paralyzing that would have also been very handy. So our next mon is going to be Choice Scarfed in Nidoking. I figured that I absolutely needed a Scarfer in this match, so it was either going to be this or it was going to be Hydreigon, and ultimately I figured Choice Scarf Nidoking might just be a little bit better because offensively wise it still hits his entire squad pretty hard, and I can also run rocks on this without much fear. Plus, the cool thing about Hydreigon, as you see here, it is sub taunt, so I can absolutely just use a Toxapex as setup fodder unless he does bring Ice Beam, which I don't know, I guess could maybe come. I really don't think he'll bring Ice Beam though. So if I can sub up and this behind a sub is actually pretty problematic to him because I can run Modest Nature, and I think that with this EV spread I actually have more special attack than a timid max special attack Hydreigon, so hopefully Hydreigon will be putting in a little bit of work. But between Earth Power and Dark Pulse, I hit absolutely everything, and that is amazing because again, behind a sub I will be able to pressure his team, and then we do have a whole lot of bulk with max HP investment. Next up, we have a very cool set in Swords Dance Decidueye, which is actually not Lumberry. I was really debating either Lumberry or Colberberry, and the last minute I decided to go Colberberry because again, Spiritomb does seem very likely to come to this match, so if he were to bring it, I don't want to try to SD and then him Sucker Punch and just KO me. So that's mainly why I had Colberberry, but Lumberry was nice because it would help me set up against the Toxapex. If I get the +6 late game, Decidueye basically just sweeps through his entire squad, and I can set up all day on Toxapex if it does not have the haze, which would be really, really nice. Or if he brings something choice and it's locked into the incorrect move, that gives me a free Swords Dance as well. I figured between my dual stab of Leaf Storm and Shadow Sneak, I actually didn't really need any more coverage because at +2, +4, +6, this thing is going to be doing damage regardless. And I also didn't really need a lot of speed, so I figured more HP investment would be ultimately better for us. And then the final team member, I had no idea what to bring here. I think I originally had Blastoise, but I was like, then Rotom is a giant issue. Then I tried Reuniclus, but then Spiritomb and Rotom are a little scary, and I really feel like he needs to bring a Trick Scarfer in order to deal with Reuniclus. So ultimately I decided on Assault Vest Deontay here, and the cool thing about Assault Vest Deontay is that even if he is packing Hidden Power Steel coverage on something on his squad, we're going to be able to tank Hidden Power Steel very, very easily. With the Assault Vest, this hits over 600 Spadef, and then we're still doing pretty good damage with our base 100 attack and special attack. So Rock Tomb was the final move. I originally was going to go Stealth Rocks in case I decided to switch into Tornadus and he knocked off, so I could have double rockers because rocks are really good in this game. But Rock Tomb is also super nice because I can lower the speed of Mega Deontay and Tornadus as well as the Latios if it really comes down to it. And then between Moonblast and Diamond Storm and Earth Power, I had absolutely everything for neutral or super effective damage. So yeah, bit of a rough matchup, but not a matchup that, well, we cannot win basically. So we can definitely pull out the victory here if we win. We're on to round 3, sorry, and that would be absolutely amazing. So let's go ahead and jump into the battle here. Alright, so we got the matchup here. Of course, if you guys do enjoy this, hit that thumbs up button down below. If we win our round 2 match, we head into round number 3, which would be amazing because already making it out of round 1 was way more than I could have asked for in this Brawl for All round 6. So looking at the team matchup here, I was really surprised to not see Spiritomb or see the Rotom. And I really wish I had actually brought Reuniclus because Reuniclus would have been super handy potentially against my opponent's squad here. But I guess it does make sense. Like when you see a Rotom and a Spiritomb, that really does deter Reuniclus from wanting to come, just because Rotom can trick it and Shadow Ball it, and then Spiritomb can trick it and beat it down with Dark moves or Ghost type moves. So yeah, my opponent definitely did not expect me to bring Reuniclus, obviously because of those 2 mons, but he did not bring the Rotom or Spiritomb. So he did bring the top 6 as I was expecting. So going into this game, offensively wise, Mega Deontay and Latios as well as Tornadus are going to be the biggest pain. Defensively, Piloswine and Toxapex could be very annoying to deal with, but Leech Seed, Celesteela can kind of work around those. We also have my Mega Manectric, which if he's not running a Scarfer, outspeeds his entire team, and if we get rid of Piloswine, the Mega Manectric definitely puts in a lot of work, and hopefully Decidueye late game will be able to SD and sweep, or Scarfed Nidoking can win potentially. So looking at lead matchups, I figured that just leading off with my Nidoking would be best in case he wanted to lead with his Mega Deontay, but he ends up leading off with the Piloswine. Turn 1, we both get up rocks. As I switch into my Celesteela, he's gonna phase my team around here a little bit with the Roar, as he's just racking up a bunch of chip damage. As he roars me into Decidueye, I go straight for the Leaf Blade, not really worried about what he wanted to switch in here, as I do crit the incoming Tornadus. You guys are gonna see that this is a very very poorly trained Tornadus, because not only did I crit it as it switched in, but he's also going to end up missing a Hurricane here. Now this Hurricane miss actually didn't matter whatsoever later in the battle, so that's not entirely too bad. As I'm going to Mega Evolve here, I do go for the Overheat, expecting him to bring in the Piloswine, and that does nothing. Oh my lord, this is a very, very spadef bulky Piloswine. This overheat did 25%. I think if he was only max HP, if I remember the calc correctly, I should have at least done 30% min or 35% min, which means he's definitely running some type of spadef investment, unless I didn't calc thick fat, but I think it's automatically thick fat, so I figured that this regardless was going to be a very, very fat Piloswine. So clearly I don't want to stay in here. I'm forced to switch out, and much like earlier, he's going to decide to play the phasing game because he knows I can't stay in and he can just freely rack up hazards damage on whatever I decide to switch in here. As I bring in Celesteela on the Earthquake, I will then be able to just freely go for the lead seed, not really caring about whatever comes in here. As in comes the Toxapex, I do have the Earthquake. I should be doing about 30% depending on his HP investment, as he decides to go for the knockoff, getting rid of my leftovers. And this is where I really wish I had just gone with my gut and went with Z-Move Celesteela. But again, I really didn't put in a lot of time into these builds, like any of my builds for these matches. And I mentioned that before, so in the long run, if I had thought about it more, I might have actually gone Z-Move instead of Lumberry, because I might have been able to catch him off guard here where like the ground EMZ, or maybe I could have Steel EMZ'd something later in the battle. Regardless though, I don't really mind. I feel like I can probably just go for another Earthquake. I can also try and Heavy Slam. Double leech seeding is not that bad, but I expect them to want to switch out. So I pull a double into my Manectric. At the same time though, I thought that maybe he would try to go for the recover, so this way I could bring in my Manectric and just gain back a little bit of HP, but it's not that big of an issue. As he brings in the Latios, I don't want to risk him being Choice Scarfed, even though Scarf Latios looks really bad in this matchup. If he is Scarfed and I lose my Mega Manectric, then that would be really bad for me, so I'm going to switch right into my Assault Vest Deontay. There should be nothing that this Latios does that should threaten my Deontay, so he's going to actually double switch into his Piloswine, and I'm thinking, okay, well this is not really that bad. I really don't think he's going to expect me to stay in here. So what I'm going to do is predict him to want to switch out, but I don't think he's going to try to risk bringing in the Metagross just because Metagross is still painfully obvious. So what I'm going to do is just go for the safe move in Moonblast in case he feels like switching into maybe the Tornadus or into his own Deontay instead of into the Metagross. But he does make the aggressive switch into Metagross, and I wish I had gone for the Earth Power here, because that extra damage might have come in handy a little bit later in this match, because I still don't know what this what this regular Metagross is running. So clearly I don't want to stay in and take a Meteor Mash, so I'm going to switch into my Celesteela. As he does go for it, he does not get an attack boost, which is nice, so I should be able to live any hit he wants to go for, as he reveals to be a Thunder Punch Metagross. So I'm going to protect, just trying to gain back as much HP as I possibly can. But he switches into his Tornadus on my protect. He goes for the Heat Wave, and then he tries to be cheeky and going for the Iron Tail here. Honestly, I don't think he should have Iron Tail there. Like, I'm below Stealth Rock's damage, so there's no reason for me to switch out here. I feel like him missing was kind of just a bad play on his part. Like, this Tornadus literally did nothing, and it missed so many of its moves, and again, I don't really think he should have gone for Iron Tail there. There was no reason for me to save Celesteela, I think, honestly. Like, at this point, I can sack it off and just bring in my Mega Manectric, or bring in my Nidoking, or Hydreigon. And with Hydreigon, I can bluff the Scarf too, so and force him out. So, yeah, it does suck that this Tornadus did nothing, unfortunately, but it's part of the game. As in comes the Latios, I'm just going to sack off Celesteela as he goes for the Thunderbolts. I'm still thinking that maybe this is Scarf Latios, which is really foolish of me, because again, like, Scarf Latios doesn't really make much sense in this match. But I'm gonna go for the Earth Power, expecting the Metagross. It just barely lives, dude. It lives on 6%, and that was really unfortunate, because as you can see, it turns out that he's weakness policy. So now I basically have to choose something on my team to go ahead and sack off, because I absolutely need to keep my Deontay around. My Deontay checks his Mega Deontay and his Latios, so there's no way I'm going to sack this off. I figured ultimately because Piloswine is still at about 50%, that maybe sacking off my Mega Manectric is going to be better for me in the long run of this battle. In hindsight, maybe I could have sacked off Hydreigon, but I was still thinking that if I can get Hydreigon in on Toxapex and behind a sub, I can still hit the Latios, and I still hit the Mega Deontay because it's forced to Mega Evolve. And behind a sub, it needs to break my sub first, so it's going to be taking rocks damage, and I still get off a decent bit of damage with the Earth Power. So I'm going to switch out here, just go ahead and sack off my Mega Manectric. I was also really hoping that maybe I would live a Meteor Mash, because if I lived the Meteor Mash, that would have been amazing. As unfortunately I don't, and then he also gains the attack boost here. So if he has Bullet Punch, my Decidueye could potentially be KO'd, but that's only if he gets a really high roll or he crits me. Plus, I mean, with him having weakness policy, that means he might have been like a Rock Polish Metagross. So a part of me did not expect him to have the Bullet Punch. And I'm also running a little bit of speed on this Decidueye, so if he's not running a lot of speed on his Metagross, I can probably out-prioritize him. So I'm going to try and go for the Shadow Sneak here in hopes that he doesn't have the Bullet Punch or that I outspeed. And luckily, I am able to outspeed, or he doesn't have it. As down it goes, in comes the Toxapex, and this is where I really wish that I had kept Lumberry. I really wish I had kept Lumberry, because you're going to see that this Toxapex cannot do anything to my Decidueye. I would have been able to get up to +6, and at +6, I knock out the Deontay with Shadow Sneak, I knock out the Piloswine with Shadow Sneak as well, and also the Latios. So yeah, unfortunately that change in the long run really ended up hurting me here, as I just spam Leaf Blade. He's going to decide to sack off the Piloswine, and down it goes as in comes the Mega Deontay. Unfortunately, Mega Deontay is going to be able to live a +2 Shadow Sneak regardless, but I had a couple things going through my mind at this point. I thought that maybe I should save my Decidueye, just because if I can keep it around, I can still pressure that Latios. And if I force in and out the Deontay, eventually if I'm able to Swords Dance again, it'll be in range of where a +2 Shadow Sneak can knock it out, and I can maybe still win with my Decidueye. So I thought that maybe I should have just sacked something else off here, but in the long run, if my Hydreigon gets behind a sub, I'm still in a really good spot. I don't know exactly what this Latios is. If it's not something like Calm Mind Roost, then I can still also win this battle. So I figured in the long run I had the better odds of just going straight for the Shadow Sneak here and severely weakening this Deontay as he knocks me out with the Moonblast. He gets a crit. That crit didn't matter. I was in range regardless, unless he was running no special attack investments. As I bring in my Deontay here, a part of me feels like this might have been a bit of a misplay, because what I also could have done, and maybe what I should have done, was brought in my Nidoking. Because if I brought in Nidoking here, even if I forced him out into Toxapex, he might have felt inclined to going for the Recover, which would have gave me a free switch into my Hydreigon, and then from there I can sub up on the Toxapex, and behind a sub, my Hydreigon definitely knocks out this Deontay, and behind a sub, I can also still pressure the Latios, which once it comes in, is going to be at about 64% HP, where Dark Pulse should be able to knock him out. So looking back at this might have been the one play I kind of regret going for, but it is what it is, as he decides to switch out here. I went with the Earth Power ultimately because if he stayed in trying to knock me out, my Earth Power was enough to knock him out, but he decides to just sack off his Toxapex, which is actually really good for him, because now there's no way that my Hydreigon potentially gets up a substitute, and that's actually kind of bad for me. So I need to hope that my Deontay can try and weaken this Latios if he brings it in, to put it in range of where my Nidoking can just come in, click Sludge Wave, and basically win me the battle. So he's going to bring in the Latios here. Turns out that unfortunately he is a Calm Mind Latios, but if he doesn't have the Roost, then it doesn't necessarily matter too much, as he does turn out to have the Roost, and I am going to just put this on fast as I go for the Rock Tomb here. Ultimately, I think what I should have done too was just kept spamming Rock Tomb to put this in range of where eventually my Deontay was faster than him. So then that way I could outspeed him and pressure him a little bit more. At least by going for one Rock Tomb, my Nidoking and my Hydreigon both now outspeed guaranteed. So if I can just get off enough damage on this Latios to put him in range of where a Dark Pulse into a Sludge Wave knocks him out, then I should be able to win the battle with my Scarf Nidoking. So things aren't looking entirely too bad. Plus Diamond Storm is doing a pretty solid chunk of damage to him, as I'm just going to keep spamming Moonblast here. Eventually I should get a special attack drop, so if I can get enough drops, then he might not be able to knock out my Hydreigon or my Nidoking, which would be really, really good, as he's just going to keep spamming the roost here. I'm going to be switching between Moonblast and Diamond Storm. Again, I really feel like I should have just spammed Rock Tomb. Like, I kept thinking about it, but because I don't know what his last move is, I was really hoping that it would be Psyshock, because it would make sense for this to be Psyshock, because then that way he can deal with a potential Calm Mind or Uniclus if I were to bring it. So I figured that maybe his last move was a Psychic type move, but it should have made sense that his last move was actually a Dragon type move, since with him having Thunderbolt and Psychic coverage, he wouldn't be able to hit my Hydreigon if it really came down to it. So I keep just spamming Moonblast here and Diamond Storm, trying to switch it up between the two, hoping that again I can just put him in range of where Dark Pulse into the Sludge Wave knocks him out. As he goes for the Thunderbolt, unfortunately this is going to be a 2-hit KO. I did not get a single special attack drop with any one of my Moonblasts, and if I had got some special attack drops, I might have forced him to continue trying to go for Dark Pulse, or I would have been able to get out of range of where he was able to 2-hit KO me with Thunderbolt, and then from there we could have just kept up the mind games, and then eventually maybe I would have gone for a Rock Tomb back to back, and then that way my Deontay would have been able to outspeed him. But not only does it go for the Thunderbolt, he also gets the paralysis into a full paralysis. And this really sucks, because at this point this basically lost me any chance that I wanted to win, unless I crit him or flinch him with my Hydreigon, or he doesn't have Dragon Stab. Then there's not really anything I can do at this point. So he breaks my sub with the Dragon Pulse. I do not get a crit or a flinch, and unless Sludge Wave crits him or Ice Beam crits him here, then there's no way I knock him out. And the funny thing is that I was really debating between Physical Nidoking or Special Nidoking, and if I was Physical Nidoking here, dude, I think I might have actually won if I was Physical Nidoking, but alas, I made so many last minute changes, and that's why I don't typically like to do it. But I really wasn't too worried about winning or losing this game, because already making it out of brackets and making it out of round 1 surpassed any goals that I wanted to, or any goals that I set for myself in the Brawl for All. So I really don't mind losing here in round 2, especially in a very, very close game like this. That was just a barely 2-0 loss. And yeah, but that is Mons. It's part of it. You win some, you lose some. So very good game to Mayo. Good luck to him in his future rounds for the Brawl for All. So yeah, guys, that is the end of our run. Again, I'll leave a playlist of all my battles in the description below. If it's not there, comment and I'll make sure to add it whenever I finish. So if you guys did enjoy, you know what to do. Hit that thumbs up button down below. I will see you all later today, or this is probably the second upload for Sunday. I'm not too sure how I'm going to structure these uploads yet, but whatever it is, you guys should get 2 uploads on Sunday. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Later, everybody.
Cause my brain and heart are both tied in the knot, and this hinders me from crying a lot. This causing me to show no emotion. But when I said I cared, I wasn't joking. But I guess it's too late for me to become broken. For now, I'm living with no more pain, tears, or hoping. I'm just coasting. Yeah, I said I'm coasting. No more pain, tears, and hoping. For real.